Hmm. Okay, so look, exothermic and endothermic reactions. State what you'd expect to see on a thermometer in an exothermic reaction. What do you expect to see in the chat section? What would you expect to see for this question? Yes, Tom, that's what I love to see. Excellent. Thank you, whatever. Temperature rise. Yes, Tom. That's what I love. I love those stories. Well done. Exactly. Thank you. A temperature rise. Now, when it comes to a thermometer, you would think this is a really easy question, but a lot of students don't know what a thermometer is. Now, some of you may not have done science experiments with your teacher all that too often, but this is a classic thermometer right here. Okay, this thermometer right here, and there is a liquid in here which responds to the temperature, and the liquid will rise when there is an exothermic reaction. Okay, so thermometers measure the temperature, and that's a real question. Now, question two: describe how you would measure the change in temperature to see if any reaction is exothermic. Well, before we continue, we need to make sure we know what an exothermic reaction is and what an endothermic reaction is. And there are so many misco. Well done. That is correct as a basic level. I love that. But we're going to learn about it to a much higher level. Okay. So let's see what an exothermic and endothermic reaction is. I want to teach you the science a little bit. Um, exothermic. This is any process, and I say any process because it can also be dissolving as well. So this is any process or reaction which causes the temperature of the surroundings to increase. That's what exothermic really is. The temperature of the surroundings increases because of a chemical reaction or a physical process. Now, thermic means heat. Okay, and it comes from the word thermal. So thermic means heat energy, which comes from the word thermal. And you can think of course, yeah, heat energy. And we can think of exo as exit, okay, leave. So exothermic is when essentially you have a lot of heat energy or an excess amount of heat energy going or being transferred into the surroundings. However, that's not the full story about exothermic and endothermic reactions, which I'm going to explain in a little bit when it comes to bond breaking and bond making. Okay. Now, for example, let's look at combustion. What is combustion another word for in the chat section? What is combustion? No, that's not correct. Exothermic is not bond breaking. No, 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 it's the other way around. Excellent. Burning. Well done. Combustion is another word for burning. Okay, so let's say we have some wood and we have a thermometer in the surroundings around that wood. That wood burns. Okay, the starting temperature is 23 degrees Celsius. Now we know when we burn this wood, we know that the temperature of the surroundings is going to increase. Now, so let's look at this question. Imagine we're looking at that chemical reaction that we were just looking at, combustion. So now let's go back to this question. Describe how you would measure the change in temperature to see if any reaction such as combustion is exothermic. So how would you do that? Question two. I can do Mina. And I probably we will at some point. Right now it's combined content because this is for everybody, but we can do triple content at some point. How do we measure the change in temperature? Does anybody know? How though? How? You use a thermometer? Okay, so that, Kelsey, is good. We need to do a little bit more details. Let's look at the mark scheme. Um, okay, so look, you use. Oh, let me zoom in. Let me zoom in. There we go. Okay, zoom in. Bit out. Bit out. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so look, we use a thermometer to measure the starting and final temperature. Now, a lot of people would not actually say that, and this is from a real mark scheme. So let's see how many of you have said that. No, not enough people have said that. So look, you use a thermometer to measure the start and final temperature. You calculate the difference. Very, very important. And if the temperature increases, then you have an exothermic reaction. And this is where a lot of people go wrong with these kind of questions. They're quite easy to understand. Like this question is really, really easy to understand, but then the mark scheme wants, that's just that extra detail. And look, it's a 3 mark question, so you really do have to say more things than just 2 little facts. So I'd like everybody to please answer this question in the chat section. It's a 3 mark question. In the exam, you would get roughly 3 minutes to answer it. I'm going to give you 1 minute. Off you go in the chat. Go. How are you doing? Yes, they are applicable for OCR. They definitely are. This is pure science. These kind of questions would be applicable for every single exam board. If you don't believe me, look in your chemistry textbook for OCR for under exothermic, endothermic, and message back and say you're wrong, Sammy. It's not in here. 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay. So look, I want to see that you said use a thermometer to measure the start and final temperature, and then you need to actually calculate the difference. If the temperature increases, exothermic. Okay. You use a thermometer to check the temperature, measure not the start heat, Marcel, the start temperature. So use a thermometer to check the temperature, then measure the start and end. If temperature rises, you need to say calculate the difference. You'd use it. Okay, I can't read them all. It doesn't. You don't have to start with 0 degrees, Abishan. So you need to use a thermometer to measure the start temperature, the initial temperature, the final temperature, calculate the difference. If the temperature increases, exothermic. Okay, there's a lot of answers there. I'm not going to be able to read them all. So look, just check your answer and be brutally honest with yourself. If you said use a thermometer to measure this initial or start temperature and final temperature, that is 1 mark. If you then said to calculate the difference, okay, that's a 2nd mark. And if you then said the temperature increases or rises or goes up, or then that means then you get the 3rd mark.